If you feel you have a narcissistic parent, let me share with you that you were born for one reason, and that was to serve. That was to serve the narcissistic parent, in my case, a narcissistic mother, with being a slave, with validation that they're a good person, to fill the emptiness that's inside of them. So the outside world can look at him or her and everything looks quote unquote normal. You're their plaything. Something they can manipulate. Someone who they can hold up high and say, I'm a great parent. This is called Narcissistic Supply. And without Narcissistic Supply, or without someone where the narcissist can control, they're left with themselves feeling very empty, and it tears them apart. Now, I was 10 years old when my baby brother was born. And from almost the very first day, I was taught how to change diapers. And back then they didn't have Pampers, it was cloth diapers with the big safety pins. I was taught how to feed him, how to clean the bottles, because of course my narcissistic mother did not breastfeed. They can't be that close with emotion, and that's more involved. But I was taught how to sterilize the bottles, and they had little sacks inside them, and they looked like condoms, where the Infamil or the formula would go in. And I fed him at least 3 or 4 times a day. I was taught immediately, as a 10-year-old, how to babysit my newborn brother, how to give him walks in the strollers, and I always was the one to walk my baby brother. Neither of my parents took the time to take him to the park. I was always the one to take him to the park, play with him, change him. I used to take him to the mall, which was about 3 or 4 miles away, as he was an infant, and walk through the mall in Brooklyn with him, and talking with him and taking care of him. Interesting enough that within the first year of my brother being born, my parents divorced. This was a very, very violent household. And I'm going to go into it in more series later on, but there was a tremendous amount of abuse, physical, emotional, sexual. Tremendous amount, overwhelming. And if the statute of limitations had not run out, people would be in prison. But I was there to take care of my brother while my mother went to work. While she went out almost every night, I raised him. I would pick him up from the babysitter after school. I would take him home. I would do his homework with him. I would start dinner. I was the cook at the house, and so when my mother got home, dinner had to be ready. And bathe him. I also read him his books at night. I did absolutely everything. My mother did really very, very little. And this is interesting. Once you, as a child of a narcissist, become of a certain age, 8, 9, 10, 11, you start developing your own personality, your own self. And the narcissist cannot stand this. In my case, when my brother was 15 or 16 years old, he finally had to leave my mother's house. I was already out. I had no contact from my mother for many years. But my brother came to live with me, and I was just engaged to be married. So I was 25 or 26 years old. And my wife was really, she's my ex-wife now, but my wife was really great with that, and she was okay with that. And my brother lived with me, and then after I got married, my wife, for about 5 years. We raised him as almost our son. All expenses, schooling, more important, emotional support, just as if it was our loving son. His car, his first car, his graduation, any allowances. And we did all that. My mother never contributed a dime. My mother never called me and said, do you need any help or do you need any financial support or anything? My brother had at that time broken contact with her, which I'm sure infuriated her. At the same time, my mother had remarried to an enabler. He did whatever she said. She controlled and still does control him. And I'll go into that with some just horrific stories. Not only him, but he had 3 children. His oldest would not live with her. The second oldest, which was my stepsister, her nickname from my mother was Little Whore. That's all she was called, was Little Whore. And the youngest, he was severely abused by my mother, both physically and mentally. His nickname was Sick Little Bastard Just Like Your Mother. That's what she called him all the time, Sick Little Bastard Just Like Your Mother, because his mother had mental illness. She also physically, horrifically abused him. He's now in a halfway home, or a group home for men with bipolar disorder. But as soon as the stepchildren started developing their own little personalities, they were right out of the house. My stepsister, I believe, left at 16 or 17 years old. She got married right away, a failed marriage, but she had to get out of the house. My stepbrother, I believe he left as soon as he was 18. But they had to get out of that house. The narcissist needs somebody for them to control. What's interesting is, my brother reestablished contact with my narcissistic mother because it really suited him. He's now the golden child and we have no contact at all. She separated us very well, very smartly. And I'll go into that. It's called triangulation, and I'll go into that in another video. But she's literally a genius, how she's done this. But my brother reestablished contact because it helped him. My mother had saved and worked for and earned and sued a lot of the family for a lot of money. Her family in the Midwest. I'll go into that again another time, but she manipulated somebody in the family and got them to sign over the will. Whereas the children of this woman, my mother's aunt, was completely cut out and everything was left to my mother and my brother. She bamboozled and destroyed that family. But yeah, my brother saw a great opportunity. He got a down payment for his house. His children were put into private Catholic school. And he keeps her at arm's length. He's very smart, but he knows where the money is. But there was a year, this is going back about, I guess around 2005, 2006, where he did not talk to my mother for a full year. Something had happened and she wanted to spend time with him and he didn't want to, and she blew up. During that year, my mother needed to have some type of oxygen, some type of narcissistic supply. So what did she do? She applied and received an exchange student, whereas a student from another country came to her house, her and her husband's house. They were living on their own at that time. And the child went to college based out of my mother's house. She had someone to control. And it's just the control issue is an absolute mess. It's if they don't have anyone to control at every given time, they go berserk. If they're not controlling the communication between the siblings, they go absolutely berserk. And that'll lead me into another topic that, again, I'll discuss later, triangulation, whereas they divide all of the family members the siblings, so they can control the information. All of the information of how the other one is doing comes directly through them. And it gives the narcissist parent a ability to control, a feeling of self-importance, and also they're able, and this is important, they're able to manipulate that information. So they're able to say something negative to one sibling about the other sibling, and then they'll do that in reverse. But the narcissist parent needs supply. Be careful. That supply can become from your children as well. If you have a parent that is a narcissist, do not ever, ever leave them alone with your children. For me, it was a couple different reasons why not, but their manipulation is incredible. There's also different types of abuse that can happen. But don't let them alone with your children at all if you do have contact with them. If you don't have contact with them, like I had mentioned in my previous video, stay no contact. Do not ever think that narcissists can change, because they cannot change. They will not change. They do not mellow as time gets older. But the narcissist needs supply. And they're also called, under Narcissistic Supply, they're also called emotional vampires. Whereas that supply, you, is fed to them. Your emotions, your sadness is what makes them happy. Now, you won't know that this is going on. And if you've identified that you have a narcissistic parent and you look back in time, you'll start putting these pieces together. But your emotional duress, your sadness, the narcissist feeds upon that. They enjoy that. I remember my mother actually telling me a story about beating my stepbrother in the shower one day, and she was smiling. She was getting such pleasure from it. Narcissists need that. Just like a vampire needs blood, narcissist needs that emotion to live. If they don't have that, if they don't have the supply, they'll, again, left alone, empty, to look at no one else but themselves. I'm interested to find out what you think. Please like and subscribe this video if you identify with it. And please leave comments if you identify with this specific subject of narcissistic supply. Thank you.